Can you explain the difference between a Catholic priest and a pastor?
Between a Catholic priest and a pastor?
Yes.
Okay. That's an interesting one, Ned. All right. I just start off actually by telling you that in America, and we don't like this terminology at all, but in America, they talk about their priests, the priest in charge, as the chief pastor, or his assistant, as the assistant pastor. But it's not a Catholic term, but that's an American way of looking at things. A priest is a man chosen by God, who accepts the call to become a priest, goes off and studies for 7, 8, or 9 years, whatever the organization he belongs to, who is dedicated his life to serving people and committed his life, because he's a Catholic priest, to celibacy, in other words, not getting married and not having children. Whereas a pastor, in the non-American sense, and as we talk about pastors in this country, are people, married men, and sometimes even women are called pastors as well, who feel called by God to preach and to serve. And so they might go off and study in a Bible study college, a Bible college for a while, sometimes only as little as 6 months, sometimes for 2 or 3 years. And then they can set up their own congregation and their own church, and they've got a group of people that they follow them. And very often, if it's a man, very often the wife goes off and does it as well, and she also becomes an associate pastor. The word pastor, if you look at the American sense, is a good word, pastor, because he's pastoring. And a pastoring person is someone who's shepherding. But the priest has other terms that we like to use. For example, something that pastors don't do, priests offer sacrifice. Pastors don't offer sacrifices. They simply dedicate to the word of God, and they will pastor to their people in their parish by preaching to them and making sure perhaps they get enough food or whatever it is that they offer. Whereas in the priesthood, and this priesthood goes right back to the Old Testament, it's always been the role of the priest to offer sacrifice to God. And in the old days, in the Old Testament, of course, they offered bread and wine and sometimes animals, etc. In the Christian priesthood, we offer the sacrifice of Christ. Every time we go to Mass, the priest is offering up bread and wine, which becomes the body and blood of Christ. So he's offering the sacrifice of Christ to the Father. That's specifically what a priest does.